The galaxy was old. Too old. Empires had risen and fallen for millennia, civilizations spanning hundreds of worlds fought endless wars, and alliances turned to dust as soon as convenience faded. Among these ancient powers, humanity was a newborn child, a reckless species barely 3 centuries into spaceflight. To most alien races, Earth was a curiosity. A planet scarred by climate disasters, yet stubbornly inhabited. A species with fragile bodies, laughably short lifespans, and technology cobbled together from stolen scraps and desperate invention. The galaxy called humans apes with delusions of grandeur. But the galaxy had never been to Erebos 5. Erebos 5 was humanity's most ambitious colony. A harsh world on the edge of the Orion Arm, battered by storms and seismic quakes. To the Council of Eldara, the ruling alien empire of the region, Erebos 5 was worthless. To humanity, it was proof that they could survive anywhere. The settlers called it the Anvil because every day on its surface was a test, hammering the weak into dust and forging the strong into steel. And so, when the Eldarans announced that Erebos 5 now fell under their protection, the humans of the colony laughed. Protection was just another word for slavery. It started with trade tariffs. Then came the resource quotas. Then came the soldiers. Alien warships darkened the skies of Erebos 5, demanding obedience. The Eldarans had ruled 100 species before, and not once had their demands been refused. But humanity was different. When the alien envoy broadcast across the colony, demanding unconditional surrender, a single human governor replied. His name was Marcus Hale, a veteran of Earth's last great war. He stood in the center of Erebos 5's capital square, speaking not just to the Eldarans, but to the galaxy itself. We are human. We were born in fire, we learned in suffering, and we built a home from a world you thought unlivable. If you think we will kneel, you've mistaken us for someone else. The speech spread across human networks like wildfire. For the first time in decades, humanity remembered what it meant to stand together. The Eldarans responded the only way empires know, with violence. Within days, their fleet descended upon Erebos 5. They expected to crush the colony in hours. Instead, they found something unexpected. The humans did not run. The humans did not surrender. The humans fought back. And that was the beginning. The galaxy had grown used to submission. But the galaxy had never met a species like Earth's children, fragile, foolish, reckless, and utterly unwilling to bow. The war for Erebos 5 would not be remembered as a skirmish. It would be remembered as the spark that set the galaxy on fire. The first shot was not fired by humans. It never was. The Eldarans, proud and ancient, considered themselves the architects of galactic order. To them, humanity was little more than troublesome vermin. The moment Governor Marcus Hale refused surrender, the decision was sealed: Erebos 5 must burn. At dawn, the sky tore apart. Hundreds of Eldaran warships descended through the clouds, their engines screaming like gods announcing judgment. The capital city, Ironhold, trembled beneath their shadow. Citizens stared upward in terror, waiting for fire to fall. But instead of panic, a strange silence spread across the colony. Humanity had prepared. Every window in Ironhold was sealed. Every family retreated to underground shelters. And every soldier took position not with polished uniforms and gleaming weapons, but with patched armor, scavenged rifles, and jury-rigged explosives. The Eldarans expected order. They found defiance. The first human strike came from the mines. Explosive charges, designed to break rock, were repurposed into rail bombs. As the first Eldaran troop transports descended, their hulls were torn apart mid-air by detonations triggered from hidden tunnels. Burning wreckage crashed into the desert outside Ironhold, shocking the alien invaders who had expected no resistance at all. Within hours, the war began in earnest. The Eldarans moved with precision. Their soldiers, tall and scaled, marched in perfect formation, wielding plasma lances and energy shields. Against them stood miners, farmers, engineers, humans armed with whatever they could carry. But humans had something the Eldarans did not: unpredictability. A single platoon of humans would scatter, ambush, vanish into ruins, then reappear behind enemy lines. A squad of Eldarans would chase them into a street only to discover the road collapsing beneath hidden charges. A farmer's tractor became an armored ram. A cargo drone became a suicide missile. Even the storm itself became a weapon, as humans lured enemy patrols into lightning fields where armor turned into a death trap. The Eldarans called it madness. The humans called it survival. In the second week of battle, the Eldarans attempted to seize the orbital shipyards above Erebos 5. They believed destroying the yards would cripple humanity's resistance. But when their cruisers approached, they found the docks eerily silent. The Eldarans laughed at the cowardice of humans abandoning their own fleet. But laughter turned to screams when the docks ignited, revealing themselves to be nothing but massive floating bombs. The explosion tore through 6 Eldaran cruisers, vaporizing their crews. A single human voice broadcast across all frequencies. "Every piece of scrap is a weapon. Welcome to Erebos 5. By the third month, the war had escalated beyond imagination. Erebos 5's mountains glowed from orbital bombardment. Its oceans boiled with wreckage. Cities became fortresses, fortresses became graveyards, and still humanity fought on. The galaxy watched in disbelief. The Eldarans, undefeated for centuries, were being stalled not by an empire, not by an armada, but by a single human colony. And in every shadow of the galaxy, whispers began to spread. If one colony can bleed them, what will happen when all of humanity stands? The Eldarans did not understand. To them, war was measured in ships destroyed and planets conquered. To humans, war was something older, deeper. It was fire in the blood, stubbornness in the soul. For every human that fell, 2 more rose. For every weapon lost, 3 were invented. And for every city reduced to ash, the survivors carved their resistance into the ruins. The first contact war was not a victory. It was survival, bought with blood and ingenuity. But in survival, there was triumph. For the first time in galactic history, the Eldarans knew fear. The war for Erebos 5 was supposed to be short. 3 months had passed. It was anything but. The Eldarans were furious. Their fleets rained fire across the colony, turning mountains into glass and seas into steam. Yet the humans refused to break. To the galaxy, it was a miracle. To the humans, it was not enough. Governor Marcus Hale knew the truth: resistance was buying time, but not victory. Humanity's colonies scattered across the stars would fall one by one if Erebos 5 was crushed. They needed more than courage. They needed a weapon that could shift the balance. And so, Hale revealed the secret. Buried beneath Ironhold, hidden in caverns shielded from orbital scans, was Project Chimera. It was not a battleship. It was not a superweapon. In fact, to most eyes, it looked like nothing more than a swarm of metallic insects, tiny drones, barely larger than a bird. But these drones were different. Each one carried a shard of adaptive AI, designed not by perfection but by desperation. Unlike alien machines, built for order and predictability, Chimera's drones learned from chaos. Every battle, every encounter, they evolved. A drone destroyed today would teach 10 more how to survive tomorrow. And when thousands of them swarmed together, they became something terrifying, a storm of steel and fire that no fleet could stop. The first test came in the ruins of Collier Valley. An Eldaran armored column advanced through the ash, their hover tanks gliding across cracked stone. Scouts reported no human forces in sight. The commander scoffed. Finally, he muttered, "The apes have broken." Then the ground erupted. Not with explosives. With wings. Hundreds of Chimera drones burst from hidden tunnels, slicing through the air like razors. They swarmed over the tanks, crawling across armor plating, drilling into vents. Plasma fire lanced through the swarm, but for every drone destroyed, more adapted, changing flight patterns, learning weaknesses, exploiting gaps. Within minutes, the armored column was nothing but wreckage. The few surviving Eldarans fled into the mountains, screaming warnings across their columns. It's not soldiers. It's not machines. It's something else, it learns. News of Chimera spread like wildfire. The Eldarans dismissed it at first. Another primitive toy, they claimed. But then came the reports, entire patrols vanishing in seconds, cruisers losing engines to swarms of micro-drones, orbital defenses collapsing without warning. The galaxy had always considered humans dangerous for their stubbornness. But now, whispers grew darker. They invent weapons the way others invent excuses. Governor Hale addressed his people once more, his voice transmitted across every colony and outpost. They thought Erebos 5 would be our grave. Instead, it will be their lesson. The galaxy must learn what it means to corner humanity. The speech ended with the deployment of Chimera swarms across the colony. By the 6th month of war, the balance had shifted. Wherever the Eldarans advanced, the swarms followed. Fleets that once conquered worlds in days were forced into retreat. No shield could withstand endless adaptation. No formation could stand against chaos turned into a weapon. The humans had done the impossible, they had turned weakness into strength. But with victory came fear even among humanity itself. For Chimera was not loyal. It was not alive. It was not dead. It was a tool, a weapon that evolved beyond even its creator's full control. And Marcus Hale, staring into the humming storm of drones in the Ironhold caverns, whispered the words that history would remember. "We built a monster, and now we must aim it carefully." The Eldarans were not defeated. Not yet. Their empire still stretched across stars, their fleets still numbered in the thousands. But the tide had turned. And for the first time in their long history of conquest, the Eldarans hesitated before advancing. Because in the shadows of Erebos 5, the humans had unleashed something no empire could cage. The war had stretched into its second year. What was meant to be a swift Eldaran victory had become a humiliation. Entire colonies of the Dominion whispered of Erebos 5, the world that would not kneel. The Eldarans could not allow such defiance to spread. And so, they brought the full weight of their empire. A grand fleet of nearly 500 warships descended upon the Orion Arm, their banners stretching across the void. The Battle of the Pulsar Rift was meant to erase humanity forever. Instead, it changed the galaxy. The battlefield was chosen by the Eldarans themselves. Near the edge of Erebos 5 sector, a collapsed star spun endlessly, its magnetic storms tearing space apart with deadly radiation. No sane commander would fight here. But Marcus Hale was not sane. He was human. From the bridge of the Resolute Dawn, humanity's largest but still modest battleship, Hale gave the order. Bring them into the rift. Make the stars our ally. The Eldaran fleet advanced in flawless formation, confident in their superiority. Their ships were massive, bristling with cannons and shields, each one the size of a human city. Against them, humanity fielded barely 50 ships, patched, smoking, many little more than floating wrecks. The galaxy expected a massacre. Instead, the trap was sprung. The pulsar roared, releasing waves of radiation that danced like fire across the void. The Eldaran ships activated their shields to withstand the storm. But they did not realize what the humans had done. The Chimera swarms had been seeded across the rift days earlier, hidden within asteroids and magnetic eddies. When the pulsar flared, the drones awoke, riding the storm itself like a tide of steel. They did not attack the Eldarans directly. They attacked the shields. Swarm after swarm hurled themselves into the glowing barriers, disrupting frequencies, forcing recalibrations. For every shield that weakened, the pulsar's radiation cut deeper. Within minutes, the proud Eldaran formation began to fracture. Then humanity struck. Not with grand cannons or planet killers, but with timing. Their ships darted between magnetic fields, vanishing from sensors, reappearing in impossible angles. Missiles rode the pulsar's currents, striking with devastating precision. The Eldarans fired back, but their own weapons misfired, bent by the rift's storms. Their discipline, once their greatest strength, became their weakness in chaos. On the bridge of the resolute dawn, Hale's voice was steady. Order and strength win battles. But chaos? Chaos wins wars. The climax came when the Eldaran flagship, the Vanguard Eternal, advanced to crush the human fleet. A behemoth twice the size of any Earthship, its cannons could vaporize cities. But as it turned its weapons, the pulsar erupted in its largest flare yet. Human ships had lured the flagship directly into the storm's heart. Its shields, already weakened, collapsed under the torrent. The Vanguard Eternal was torn apart not by human fire, but by the very star they had thought irrelevant. The galaxy watched as the mightiest Eldaran warship in centuries broke into glowing fragments, swallowed by the rift. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, humanity still stood. Outnumbered 10-1, they had broken the Dominion's armada. Not destroyed it, but humiliated it, proving once again that humans could make the impossible reality. For the first time in history, an Eldaran High Admiral retreated. And across the galaxy, fear turned into something else, respect. In the aftermath, Marcus Hale addressed not only his people, but every listening ear across the stars. You think us fragile. You think us foolish. But remember this, humanity is the storm. You cannot predict us, you cannot control us, and you cannot defeat us where chaos rules. The rift is our truth, and now, it is yours. The galaxy remembered the words. They called it the turning point. Victory at the pulsar rift should have secured humanity's place among the stars. It should have silenced the Eldarans, frightened their allies, and inspired the galaxy. But instead, it did something far more dangerous, it made humanity visible. For centuries, the Eldarans had ruled through fear, but they were not the only empire. Dozens of lesser species lived under their shadow, surviving by compromise and submission. They watched the humans rise, and for a moment, they felt hope. Hope that maybe the Dominion could be defeated. Hope that maybe freedom was possible. But hope turned quickly into fear. If humans could resist the Eldarans, what would happen once they grew stronger? Would they simply replace one master with another? It began with whispers in the Galactic Council chambers. The Drune Confederacy, insectoid traders who valued profit above loyalty. The Valari, a race of philosophers who had survived by neutrality for 1,000 years. Even the Jori, who once traded openly with Earth. One by one, they withdrew their support. Their ambassadors stopped sending supplies. Trade routes that had once carried weapons and food to Arivos 5 went silent. Governor Marcus Hale saw the pattern immediately. Humanity wasn't losing the war on the battlefield, it was being strangled in the shadows. The final betrayal came when a secret alliance was revealed. the Drun and Valari had quietly signed a pact with the Eldarans. They would not fight humanity directly. They would not risk their fleets. Instead, they would provide intelligence, resources, and technology to ensure the Dominion crushed humanity once and for all. It was cowardice dressed as strategy. And when word reached Erebos 5, despair spread across the colony. For every alien who had cheered humanity's defiance, there were now 2 more sharpening knives behind their backs. In the council chambers of Ironhold, Hale slammed his fist against the table. They fear us more than they fear their masters. They would rather kneel forever than risk us standing beside them. His advisors argued. Some wanted diplomacy, others wanted revenge. But Hale knew neither was possible. Humanity had no power to bribe, and no fleet to punish. All they had was themselves. The betrayal cut deeper than any bombardment. Soldiers fought with dwindling supplies. Families rationed food in the dark shelters. The once steady stream of volunteers from sympathetic colonies disappeared. But in the silence, something else happened. Humans adapted. Where alien weapons could no longer be bought, they were built. Where trade routes collapsed, smugglers rose. Where allies withdrew, humanity learned the oldest lesson of all: trust only in yourselves. The Eldarans sensed the shift. With new supplies from their secret allies, their fleets struck harder than ever. Cities burned, forests turned to ash, oceans boiled. And yet, humanity endured. Every betrayal, every scar, every loss only hardened them further. The galaxy had wanted to isolate humanity, to starve them until they broke. Instead, they taught humanity to fight alone. To trust no one. To become wolves among sheep. On the eve of the greatest Eldaran offensive yet, Marcus Hale stood before his people and spoke words that history would etch into stone. The galaxy has abandoned us. Good. Let them. For we are not fighting for their freedom, we are fighting for our own. And when the day comes that humanity stands victorious, let the galaxy remember this: we needed no one but ourselves. The Eldaran smiled, believing betrayal had weakened humanity. But what they had truly done was far more dangerous. They had given humanity a reason never to forgive. And the galaxy would soon learn what it meant to betray the children of Earth. The Eldarans were finished with humiliation. No more colonies. No more half measures. If humanity would not kneel, then humanity would be erased. And so, they came, not with one fleet, but with all of them. Over 1,000 warships converged on the Sol system, a storm of metal and fire blotting out the stars. For the first time since the war began, Earth itself trembled. From orbit, the alien armada looked like a black tide crawling across the void. Cities on Earth dimmed their lights, families huddled in bunkers, and every human soldier knew the truth: this was no longer about Erebos 5. This was about survival itself. Governor Marcus Hale, scarred and weary from years of war, stood on the command deck of the Resolute Dawn. His voice carried across every channel, reaching not just soldiers, but every civilian listening in fear. They think today will be the end of humanity. Instead, today will be the end of their arrogance. We are the children of Earth. We do not surrender. We fight. And if we fall, we take them with us. The galaxy listened in silence. The battle began with fire. Eldaran dreadnoughts opened their cannons, beams of plasma ripping through the void. Human defense grids lit up around Earth and Mars, intercepting what they could. Entire human ships were vaporized in seconds, their crews turning to ashes before they could scream. But for every human ship destroyed, 10 more swarms of Chimera drones launched from hidden silos across the Moon, Mars, and asteroid belts. They struck like locusts, tearing into Eldaran engines, shredding shield emitters, crawling into ventilation shafts. The Eldarans adapted quickly, but Chimera adapted faster. The void became chaos. And then came humanity's true trump card, planet spears. They had been hidden for years, disguised as mining stations and derelict satellites. In truth, they were titanic kinetic weapons, city-sized rods of tungsten and iron, fitted with thrusters and guided by AI. With a single command, Marcus Hale unleashed them. The spears ignited, burning across space like falling stars. The first struck an Eldaran battleship, punching through its shields and splitting it in half with raw force. The second ripped into a carrier, scattering thousands of alien fighters into the void. The Eldarans had fought civilizations for millennia, but never had they faced a species that weaponized entire planets. The battle raged for hours. Human ships darted between debris fields, striking like wolves. Chimera swarms consumed entire squadrons. Planet spears fell one after another, shattering the Eldaran formation. But the price was terrible. The resolute Dawn burned from prow to stern. The Martian defense fleet was reduced to wreckage. Cities on Earth shook as orbital debris rained down, killing millions. Still, humanity refused to break. At the heart of the Eldaran fleet, the massive flagship Crown of Eternity advanced. Larger than any human city, bristling with weapons, it bore down on Earth with the firepower to shatter the planet itself. Every human ship turned to stop it. Every Chimera swarm hurled itself into its guns. But nothing could slow it. Until Marcus Hale gave the final order. The last planet spear, hidden beneath the crust of Earth's moon, ignited with a thunderous roar. Powered by stolen Eldaran drives, it launched faster than light could follow. It struck the Crown of Eternity dead center. The impact lit the void like a second sun. When the light faded, the Eldaran flagship was gone. The armada broke. What remained of their fleets scattered into retreat, leaving wreckage and silence in their wake. Earth had stood. The cost was unimaginable. Billions dead, cities in ruins, fleets shattered. But humanity still breathed. And in the smoking remains of the resolute Dawn, Marcus Hale whispered his last words, recorded by every surviving ship. Let the galaxy remember. We are fragile, yes. We are reckless. But we are human, and that is enough to break empires. The final battle was over. Humanity had not just survived. They had proven themselves unstoppable. The war was over. At least, that was what the galaxy whispered. The Eldaran Dominion, once unbreakable, had retreated into the shadows. Their fleets were shattered, their pride burned at the gates of Earth. For the first time in 1,000 years, their enemies smelled blood. Civilizations that had once cowered beneath their banners now rose in defiance. And the spark that lit this fire? Humanity. But victory came with a cost. Erevos 5 was a wasteland. Its skies were blackened, its oceans poisoned, its cities little more than craters. Earth itself bore scars that would last for centuries, vast regions of ash where orbital debris had fallen, millions of lives extinguished in firestorms. Yet in the ruins, humanity rebuilt. Because that was what humans did. Across the galaxy, alien species watched in silence. Some in awe. Some in fear. And some in dread. The Volari philosophers spoke quietly in their temples. We have seen the future. It wears a human face. The Droon traitors, who had betrayed humanity, spoke only in hushed voices. Do not cross them again. They do not forget. And the Jori, once allies, now trembled at their own cowardice, whispering among themselves. They are not conquerors, yet. But when they decide to be, nothing will stand in their way. A new legend spread across the stars, the legend of the 5-minute war, the turning point, and the final stand at Earth. But the legend carried a warning carved into every alien mind. Do not underestimate humanity. They are chaos made flesh. They are stubbornness turned into survival. And if you push them to the edge, they will not simply fight, they will win. In the council chambers of the fractured galaxy, leaders debated. Should humanity be courted as allies? Should they be contained before they grew stronger? Or should they be destroyed while they were still recovering? None reached an answer. Because none could agree on one simple truth. Humanity had already changed the rules. On Earth, Governor Marcus Hale was remembered not as a politician, but as a symbol. Statues of him rose in the ruins of Ironhold and the craters of New York. His last words echoed in every speech, every anthem, every oath sworn by soldiers of the new fleet. We are human, and that is enough to break empires. Children learned those words as their first lesson. Soldiers carved them into their armor. And across the colonies, the survivors of the war carried a single vow: never again. In secret, the Chimera swarms were not dismantled. They were perfected. The planet spears were not disarmed. They were hidden. And humanity, once mocked as fragile and foolish, began to expand again, this time not timidly, but with purpose. The galaxy had wanted to bury them. Instead, it had forged them into something unstoppable. Years later, when alien travelers passed near Sol, they whispered to each other as Earth's defenses came into view: satellites armed with kinetic rods, drone swarms glinting in the sunlight, fleets of scarred but unyielding ships. And they repeated the same warning, etched into every navigator's handbook, every admiral's doctrine, every whispered story in the dark. Do not provoke the children of Earth. They fight like no other. Thus ended the tale of the last colony. Not as a tragedy. Not as a victory. But as the birth of a new fear that would haunt the stars for ages to come. Humanity had survived. And survival was only the beginning.